I don't care. How's that going?
Is it going? It's 5:30. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We'll consider the minutes of the regular meeting, April 21st, 2020, and the special meetings of April 23rd, 24th, and 27th, 2020.
So move. Second.
Any discussion?
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbanic?
Aye. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? You've had enough additions and corrections. Is there approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I'll second it.
Kathy?
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbanic?
Aye. So I'll just provide a very brief update to where the city is on the COVID-19 issues. We're still adhering to the state and county guidelines. And then also the KCC put out that they're extending the utility shut off to May 31st. If there are any citizens or anyone that needs assistance in that matter, they're asked to call the city office or the FRE to get guidance there. The county update as of Friday said that we could open the playgrounds to the public. However, today there was a notice sent out by the county that said public playgrounds are not open to the public through phase 1. So day by day still changes. So we'll need to take that up whenever it's possible there. I know the pool discussion is on the agenda, so I'll save that until later. Phase 2 begins tentatively May 18th, which says that we can go to a maximum of 30. Our next meeting is May 19th, so we'll play it by ear, or we could just say that we'll go through May, just in case there's a change at the last minute. So that will be up for discussion. And you can do it now or later in the meeting, however you choose to.
Just follow the agenda.
No, on the meeting, open meeting.
Well done.
Okay, follow along. The pool, we're going to discuss following the agenda.
Right.
Okay, so phase 1, we're still 10 or under. Phase 2 moves us to 30 on the 18th. Our next meeting is the 19th. Do we want to keep it as a closed meeting, not knowing what's going to happen on the 18th, or do you want to open up to the public at our next meeting?
I say keep it close to me. I'd agree.
Me too. What is your thought?
Yeah, mine's closed.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a consensus to keep a closed meeting for the May 19th meeting, and then we'll see what the state and county says to open up to the public again beginning in June. Anyone have anything else to add to the COVID situation that we're in right now? Okay, if not,
Nothing.
item number 7 is update on the wastewater treatment plant from Todd Anderson. So I'm going to give him a call.
You have reached destination goal.
Hi, Todd. This is Debbie with the Harrington City Commission, and we are ready for your wastewater treatment plant update.
Okay, what I have this evening is three items. The first one is we've got, I believe, the approval from Mr. Jantz for the signing of the agreement. We added the paragraph that he asked that we add, which we did, and I sent the new copy with our signature on it to Marcus this afternoon. And hopefully, if you don't have any questions, we can get that signed and proceed with that agreement.
And is that the one where we were just changing the date?
Actually,
Well, no, we changed the date, and then
it was subject to
Mr.
staff.
Jantz has added a clause in the agreement as well, and he can go over that with us better than I.
I just had a couple of clarifications, and Todd had been trying to reach me. I went ahead and sent those to him via email. He answered them to my satisfaction. The third one, given that there is the potential for us to go into the new year with this, we would hope that it'll all be done and finalized in 2020. But if it weren't for some reason, really didn't want to have to deal with that later. So I put what is referred to as the non-appropriations language that we normally use on a cash basis. And that basically is a paragraph. I added a couple of additional sentences for clarification. We would pay them everything that they were legitimately owed, but if for some reason we didn't have the funds and didn't appropriate those funds in 2020, I can't imagine us not doing that, given what we need here, but it's just a cautionary approach, and it's required by 10-11-02 to make sure that we always have that in those agreements on general purchases of merchandise or even services. Todd was good enough to add that language that I sent to him as a suggested change. That's the only other material change we made from what you approved tentatively at the last meeting. So.
Okay. And all of the KDHE documents that we received were completed in their entirety.
To the best of my knowledge.
Okay. Any discussion? Questions? Okay, so we actually approved all of this last month. It was
Yeah,
just,
so and this is just putting on the record that it has been reviewed, it has been approved. The necessary language is added, so it's ready to go in terms of signatures, so that can be finalized.
okay. Is there anything else that you have for us, Todd?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if you saw that litany of paperwork that requires signing by the officials there. I guess at the union there, typically for the loan application. I delivered, oh gosh, I don't know how many pages there were yesterday to Marcus.
Yep.
I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look through it yet, but if you have any questions regarding those, I would be happy to try to answer those. I will say that this is basically just the first wave as far as the loan application goes, but this gets the ball rolling and gets it in front of KDHE as quickly as we can. There are some additional documents that we will have to complete as we move along. Also, we have to conduct a public hearing and a public meeting as we are applying for the loan through, again, KDHE. And we have to advertise those in the paper. And I've gotten that information to Marcus to get in the Harrington Times. And right now, we plan to conduct the public meeting on at the same time in conjunction with your regularly scheduled commission meetings. And that would be the June 2nd meeting, and then have the public hearing on the June 16th meeting. We have to advertise those meetings a minimum of 15 days ahead of the public meeting, and we couldn't get it in the paper until this week. It should come out in this week's paper, but 15 days misses your next council meeting. That's why it led to the June 2nd meeting, and then you have to advertise the public hearing 30 days in advance. And if it comes out this week, we'll more than meet that requirement to have the public hearing in conjunction with your June 16th commission meeting. And basically all that, either one of those consists of is the mayor typically will say, I'm going to open the meeting up for public comment regarding this project as it's been advertised in the paper. And almost always there's no one that comments on it, but it's a necessary evil we have to go through as part of the process. And we have to supply copies of the meeting minutes and illustrate that we did indeed conduct these meetings, and obviously recorded comments if there are any comments. But it usually doesn't amount to a great deal of time or effort, but one never knows.
Okay, that sounds good. And yes, Marcus has all of the documents ready for signatures.
Okay, and the one does require a resolution, and maybe you saw that in there by the city, stating mainly what that resolution does is state that the city of Harrington does indeed plan to apply for the loan.
Right, and yes, and our attorney has reviewed that as well.
Yeah, Todd provided
Okay,
Marcus to send
you're
it to me.
probably familiar with this from past projects, perhaps.
Yes, very much
Yes.
so.
Yeah, and I was probably wasting your time preaching to the choir there with my description of the public meeting and hearing.
That's
And I
okay.
apologize for
No
that.
worries. Yeah, it's out there and open to everyone now, so that's good news. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
And just one more item, and the item is that we obviously don't have the loan in place yet. We're working through that, but we are on what is known as KDHE's intended use plan. They've earmarked X amount of dollars for the city of Harrington once the application is approved. Where I'm going with this is that we would like to be able to put forth the purchase order for the sludge press sooner rather than later. I know Dennis out there at the plant is really having the time with his sludge hauling capabilities right now. And sludge press, from the date of the purchase order, is at least 6 months out. So we would like to be able to pull the trigger on that, knowing that funding is on its way, knowing that we are on the intended use program, and say, hey guys, start building this press. If it's going to be 6 months out, we don't want to wait for another 1, 2, 3 months, or however long it's going to take KDHE to get through the loan application, since they've been off for quite some time or backed up. So we're hopeful to, again, get authorization. If you guys are okay with that, we can notify the equipment manufacturer and proceed with them building the press. The other thing, the final thing, is that no money is due until that press is delivered. And again, we're at least 6 months out on that. And that'll give us more than enough time to secure the loan funding.
Okay, Todd, how much is the sludge press?
Okay, I didn't have that right at my fingertips, but let me look. I've got here close. The press itself. Let me find it. It's $299,000.
Okay, and this would be a similar situation that we just dealt with water treatment products. Does anyone have any objections to ordering the sludge press now, knowing it's over 6 months for delivery and payment?
I think it's better to get going on it. So.
Anyone else?
The faster we get it, better.
Okay, it's a consensus to go ahead and order the sludge press.
We need them.
Okay,
Do we-
great. That's great news. That'll make Dennis real happy as well.
Okay, wait, just one moment. We'll do a proper procedure here. We'll make a
I'll
motion.
make a motion, we order the sludge press for the new sewer project.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Kathy?
Commissioner Donahue,
Aye.
Commissioner Garris,
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
and Mayor Urbani.
Aye. Okay, we're official time. You have approval to order the sludge press.
Okay, excellent. And that's all I have this evening, unless there are any questions or concerns that you folks have.
We still need to make a motion on resolution.
Yeah, resolution still needs to be formally approved.
Do we have the resolution on our copy of the resolution?
Todd, you wanted that resolution approved yet this evening, did you not?
Todd, the question was,
Yes, ma'am.
do you want the resolution approved this evening?
Yeah, the sooner the better.
Yeah, we should do that.
Okay, so we received a draft copy of the resolution. Can I just borrow your copy there?
Yeah.
I'll read it off. Okay, so we want, the next sequential order, okay. Resolution of the governing body of applicant. Resolution is the next sequential order number. Resolution authorizing the city of application with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment for a loan under the Kansas Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund Act, KSA 1988, supplemental 65-3321 through 65-3329. Whereas under the terms of the Kansas Water Pollution Control Revolving Fund Act, KSA 1988, supplemental 65-3321 through 65-3329, the state of Kansas has authorized the making of the loans to authorized applicants to aid in the construction of specific public projects. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the city of Harrington that Mayor Debbie Urbanic be and she is hereby authorized to execute and file an application on behalf of the city of Harrington with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment for a loan to aid in the construction of a sludge press building at the wastewater treatment plant. That Debbie Urbanic Mayor be and she is hereby authorized and directed to furnish such information as may be reasonably requested in connection with the application, which is herein authorized to sign all necessary documents on behalf of the applicant, to furnish such assurances as may be required by law or regulation, and to receive payment on behalf of the applicant. And certificate of the recording officer, the undersigned duly qualified and acting city clerk of the city of Harrington does hereby certify that the attached resolution is a true and correct copy of the resolution for the city of Harrington.
I make a motion, we approve resolution of next sequential number as presented for reading.
Second.
And also we'll fill in those blanks in terms of the city, et cetera. So we just have a draft in front of you.
There's a second. Did you second? Any questions or comments? Kathy?
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbanic?
Aye. Okay, I think we have it all taken care of now, Todd. Thank you again for your time.
You bet, I appreciate it, and we'll be talking to you as we move forward.
All right, sounds great. Thank you again.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Item number 8 is update on the power lines from Evergy representative. I'll be placing a call to Justin Campbell, and then I'll add David in.
Welcome to the conferencing center. At any time during Code has been confirmed. If you need technical assistance during your call, press *0. There are 3 parties in conference, including you.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Do it next week. Next week.
Justin?
Yep.
Hi, this is Debbie and the City of Harrington Commissioners.
Morning, guys.
Great, how about you?
We're good. You guys ready for us to
We,
kick things off?
yes, we are. I'm trying to reach David Cayley here, just, if y'all,
Okay, we can, yeah, we'll wait a minute.
okay. I'm trying to. Hey, David, it's Debbie and the City Commission. And we're on a conference call with Justin Campbell and the Evergy representatives.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll just leave you on speakerphone here, so.
okay.
Okay, Justin. I think
All
we're
right,
ready.
well, thank you guys for, okay. Thank you for the time. We appreciate it. You know, this is a little different than we would all like it to be, but we appreciate you guys calling us and letting us have some time.
You bet.
So on the call with me is Todd and Jeff Server. I'll let, did Marcus hand out the packet that I emailed to him?
Yes, he sent it to all of us by email.
Okay, good deal. Well, we can walk through that and see if you have any questions to the amended plan. But at this point, I'll hand it over to Tom and he can walk through that and the changes that we've come upon based on the survey results.
Yep, I think you can proceed with that.
Yes, this is Tom, and I got Jeff with me, he's the designer, but after we met on March 3rd, we were gonna do the open house and the COVID thing, put an end to that. And, we're still getting the right of way staked. We got that staked, and we found 3 spots where it was just too tight to go in without going underground. And we also checked into some cable sizes that KCP&L, our new partner, uses for 34 kV and in stock, and they use a 4-aught cable, which made the underground option more reasonable. So we ran the cost of going underground to overhead, overhead to underground, underground to overhead on out, versus just going all underground through town. And we didn't want to put in a bunch of down guys where we came up and went down. So we went with laminated poles for the study, and it was close enough that my boss approved just going underground through town.
Great.
Which it should be good for you guys. We do have to put in 6 J cams, and in that handout we gave you, they're big. They're a big box, 3 by 5 by about 3 feet tall. But I would think most people would say that looks a lot better than poles and wire. We'd have to put in 6 of them through town. And then where we go back overhead about a quarter mile east of Highway 77, we'll put a laminated pole, which means no down guys, and do the rest of the project overhead as planned. If you guys give us permission to go use your right of way in town, and with the underground and 6 J cans, what we would propose today is to, instead of trying to wait for an open house meeting, just send letters to the people that we sent them to before, the landowners on both sides of Trapp/B Street. And the people out of town pretty much say, hey, we're fixing up our infrastructure, your service should get a lot better. The people in town will just let them know that we're going underground. And then 6 landowners that would have a J-cam we would meet one-on-one with to say, hey, here's what we got coming here. lesser of the two evils. In fact, one of them's on Dave's land on the east end. But bottom line, we'd like to get your permission to proceed with the project and get some material, get the design finalized through town and get some material ordered and start the project into this year and work on it in 2021. And if we don't finish, we'll finish in 2022, but I think we'll get done in 2021 if we get permission.
Any questions?
So we just need a motion to approve the easement rights to go underground through the city? Or,
Do you have something?
I was just gonna ask, on the 2022, are we thinking it'd take that long to install? Right?
He said he thought they would be finished in 2021,
Okay.
but barring any,
That's for the whole project, not just Harrington, correct?
That's the whole project. That's all the way to the Air Force Base.
Sorry, it was just thinking like that. It's a long time.
How long are you thinking just going through town?
Yeah, we're gonna get that.
That's a good question. I don't know. How long for it to go through town with the underground guys boring and all that stuff? Like just construction to finish? Yeah, for blowing it. Yeah. 6 months. I mean, design stuff. And once we get everything designed, and then if we get a boring contractor and do the electrical, couple of months, I think. I'd say 2 to 3 months to be given room.
okay. Any other questions, comments?
And I seen on the handout that you had, it's gonna have protecting barriers in front of these junction boxes, is that correct?
Yeah, that's a good point. Most of them would put one on the east and west side so that if somebody went off the road, they'd hopefully hit that and slow them down enough not to knock out power. And there is one next to an alley. We'd probably put the one next to the alley side. So most of them with 2, some of them with 3.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
Still bear in mind.
I'll make a motion to approve the easement for the Evergy project for the easement rights to go through the city of Harrington.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbani?
Aye. Well, thank you, gentlemen. That was a great alternative to having big power poles down a major entrance to the community. We do appreciate the extra effort and work that you did put into that. And
Are they going to require any kind of written easement confirmation on that, or is this motion going to be sufficient?
do you need did you hear that question?
No.
Do you need a written
Easement
easement
confirmation of some sort?
confirmation? Or is our motion?
You can either do that or that document that I left with you guys back in March.
Okay,
You can sign that and get us a copy. I think that'll suffice.
We'll do that.
we'll do that then. Thank you. All right, anything
Okay, yeah,
else?
if anything else comes up, just let us know.
We shall do that. Thank you again for your time.
Yes, thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye. Well, that was a win.
We had several people here who were concerned about that overhead line and all the problems with that, which they should eliminate those concerns pretty readily.
Exactly.
Job's getting boring.
Okay, I'm gonna call Scott, because we're gonna do distressed property hearings here.
Wiping down.
Where's your mask? I don't know, you're in space.
This is Scott.
Hey Scott, it's Debbie in the City Commission. I have you on speakerphone, and we're getting ready to start the discussion on distressed properties. Item number 9 is the distressed property hearing on 5 West Walnut. We had 2 bids. We were looking for 2 more bids, but we've
See them when I told Marcus the other day, let me ask you about it. If we needed to move on, maybe we just need to do that because we're not getting anything very quickly. They're just kind of gearing up again in both cases and starting projects, and had looked at this, but I still didn't, as of today, have anything in my email. So I guess it depends on how pressed we are or what we want to do. I'll keep asking him if we keep having any more time, but if not,
Is it Jeff Brooks?
yes.
You know, he's gave us a fair bid.
Yeah.
And he's done his homework, you know. Whoever we need to proceed on it.
Any questions, discussion on the bids that we've received? We reviewed them previously.
And it was roughly 68.
68 for Jeff and 99 for Boyd. And just a refresh, Jeff Brooks did speak directly with KDHE, and he has arrangements made for hauling the debris off under their, they'll have someone here.
one question I don't recall, and Marcus, you may, but in his bid, that cost for that on-site supervision from KDHE, did he include that in that? Or is that in addition to our, okay, that's it.
23,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And, depending on how many days
You're right.
that could be reduced.
Look, it's been a while back since I looked at that one, and I thought, I think he did that, but I want to be real sure we know what we're approving.
Any other discussion, questions? How do you want to proceed? Want to proceed with demo or figure out some other?
I think I'd like to proceed with the demo. I mean, it's been hanging out there for so long, we're gonna get stuff there.
Unless there's some other, I know at one point there was a discussion about potentially somebody looking to purchase, but I don't think that's gone.
It fell through.
Yeah. Not getting anywhere fast.
Any resolution to proceeding with it?
I think it's just, motion, and then I presume he will have some form of a contract he wants us to approve. We could go ahead and, why don't we do this, just ask him for that. If he doesn't want to prepare one, I will. Usually the construction company has one that they want us to approve.
Do we need a motion just to have the process with?
No, I think if you, at this point, if you give me consensus, contact him and make sure we have
Everything in line.
Yeah, have a contract for you to approve.
I agree with that.
That way we have something in front
Go
of
ahead
you.
with Jeff.
Okay.
Yay. All right, anything else on 5 West Walnut, other than Brad will take it from here on the
Yeah.
contract and moving forward? Okay, item number 10 is distressed property hearing on 114 North 2nd. Scott, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. Initially, Matt Townsend, our former city manager, was handling that. And the agreement with Mr. Leon Baranda was if he would take care of the speed trap street, which was a big eyesore for the public, we would forego the 114 North 2nd Street as long as he would get the exterior cleaned up. Mr. Baranda did do that, and he has and still proceeding on Sea and Trap Street. So I would feel that he is honoring his obligation that he did set forward with us.
So the recommendation is to dismiss the property hearing?
I would for now, because he is still in the process of trying to sell that property. The only thing lacking is he just needs to get it painted. Other than that, he's taking care of everything else on it.
I move to dismiss the matter of 114 North Second Street.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbani?
Aye. All right, Scott, anything else?
Nope, that'll be it.
All right, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, item number 11, discuss and consider proposed procedure regarding public comment at meetings restricted from attendance. Eric?
This is something I've been thinking about that we needed to have when we started restricting this. It may even coincide with the Attorney General's regulations as well. So I've been trying to figure out how to come up with the right wording so I didn't have to task Marcus or city staff. And I kind of plagiarized a little bit from Wichita, but I'm not ashamed to admit that. But this basically will allow residents to still submit comments on all the agenda items prior to our meetings, as long as they're restricted from attendance. I would ask that we go ahead and approve it as of today and set it in place.
Commissioner Garris had sent it out to me in advance, and I did take a look at that. Had one suggestion which is incorporated. Don't have any real problem with this at all. I have actually done that in several settings where they've requested it, just to clarify that the public has their ability to still have input. It doesn't limit, just the opposite. We're trying to give them some kind of methodology to communicate, and sometimes it can become a real circus if you don't have it submitted in advance and we try to set a time. The varying technology that people possess when they try to call in and do this is staggering, and we get cut off and we have all kinds of problems with it. So this way they can communicate it any way they wish, as long as we have it in advance, it can be addressed to whatever extent this board wishes to do so.
So they would have to be on the agenda that they're coming, that you want something. We don't have to.
This is really just the public comment section.
Okay.
So it's you know, any kind of a topic or any kind of a question. But in order for them to communicate it, given where we are, people are watching, right? And there isn't a requirement that you have it, but we have had it historically. So to try to get as close to what we had when people could attend physically, you allow them to submit something in advance. I've got several who have called this week, waiting for them to send something in that they've got concerns about. But I'm almost certain that they would have been at one of these meetings if they were allowed to be here. So this gives them the ability, because I don't know how long this is going to go on. We've talked about the fact that, you know, phase 2 around the 15th or 18th, and it moves to 30. Well, even if that occurs, we have to maintain social distancing. We have no way to accommodate 30 in here besides ourselves. So then we'd have to look at another place to meet. So I agree with the earlier decision to let's go to June at least and then see where we are. And I'm certain we're still going to have an issue at that point, because then it moves up to a higher number than we really can accommodate. And you still are required. I think that they're not going to take that out.
Social distance.
Yeah, the July, when they kind of say, okay, we're going to open it back up. I question that we're not going to still have issues with the requirement for distancing. But we'll see. This at least gives an orderly approach, and we've recognized, hey, if you want to be a part of the meeting or you have something you'd like to have raised, here's a way for you to do it. There's a methodology for that.
Basically, it will require the city staff have the draft agenda up on Friday so that people can see it up on the website and on social media. They can send comments in. What was it?
Do you want to just read your proposal out to the public? Will know as well, and it'll be a matter of record.
So this is a proposed procedure regarding the city commission agenda items. When Harrington City Hall is closed, members of the public are restricted from attending and providing public comments at regular meetings. At any time that the Harrington City Hall is closed, now and in the future, in which members of the public are restricted from attending and providing public comments on agenda items before the city commission, and in order to provide for an orderly procedure for the citizens of Harrington to comment On items coming before the city commission during such times, the following procedures are adopted by the city commission of the city of Harrington on the blank day of blank 20 blank. Number one, the city clerk or other member of the city staff so designated will publish on the website and social media platforms for the city of Harrington the draft commission agenda no later than 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the regular meeting. Final drafts of the commission agenda are subject to revision after initial posting leading up to final adoption by the city commission at the regular meeting. Number two, the city clerk or other member of the city staff so designated will provide the email and mailing address to which public written comments may be submitted. Such written comments shall include the full name and address of the individual submitting the comments. Number three, all written comments must be received by the city clerk or other member of the city staff so designated no later than 8 a.m. on a date of the city commission regular meeting. 4, in lieu of reading the public comments live into the record during the commission meeting, such comments shall be provided in writing to each member of the city commission. 5, all written comments shall be attached and made part of the official minutes of the public meeting by the city clerk. 6, this policy suspends the real-time live public comment that is incorporated into and made a part of the city business meeting during times in which members of the public are restricted from attending in person. And final 7, nothing in this procedure is intended to limit, but in times of closure is defined to facilitate submission and consideration of public input or affect the abilities to provide comments or suggestions to the city commission via phone, email, or other means provided by the individual city commission members. And I would ask that it be proposed.
Is that your motion?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Yes, Jack.
I have a question. Public comment that you would receive wouldn't necessarily have to be tied to agenda items though, because they have not necessarily been tied to agenda items in the past.
Correct.
So it's still the same type of public comment.
Yes.
Thank you.
Where does this fit in? It's not a resolution or?
Basically, it's just what we're doing at this point is approving a procedure for this limited period of time. It really isn't I can reduce it. I thought about that earlier today. I can reduce it to a policy if we want to have that so that you've got a place to put it. It's going to be very, we hope, although we don't know. It may go on for quite a while, but I can certainly convert that into policy format if you all are in agreement that you're willing to go forward with that.
I would ask board.
Anyone else comments on? Want to put in our policy and procedures?
Yeah, it'll basically, anytime we would have a remote meeting, it would kick in. Otherwise, for the most part, it's going to kind of sunset with the change back to, at some point, we hope some level of normalcy, whatever that looks like, whenever that happens.
This just gives it so that if we ever have to restrict it even in the future, then we can still revert back to it. Still receive the comments.
Any other discussion or questions?
Is this something I'll put on, put on Facebook or website?
Yes.
State and
Yes.
newspaper, email address. And
Yeah.
Kathy?
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbana?
Aye. Okay, item number 12, discuss and consider purchase of 112 Sensus Stratus iConA 25 remote disconnect meters for $16,016.
The Sensus is a water meter.
It's electric.
Electric meter.
Basically, it's the same thing you've already done. We've had it, so he was planning on doing this later in the year, but because of how long it's been taking to get the original order, he's thinking, I need to order them now so that they get here, time later in the year.
So it's the same one where you can remote shut off everything. So I brought it up last time. some meters, not every meter in town needs this on there. You can simply cheaper it up by just running remote and reading meters without the turnoffs. So my meters haven't been changed, you know.
So we did have that discussion then on rental properties or,
Yeah, the city knows which ones they rotate mainly. So I was asked David to give us the difference, but I know it's about quite a bit.
not give him a call and calling up.
I was gonna say, is he available? Yeah, that's a good question.
So in the long run on, what, we got 1,500 meters? Something like that. So it could save you $10,000 or rent
How
motor.
many were last?
Exact same, what's that? I forgot. Yeah.
Although he's only asking for 112 meters. but-
David, it's Debbie in the city commission again. We're discussing the purchase of the remote disconnect meters request. And Commissioner Bell had a couple of questions.
David, last time we talked about the remote reads that's not with the disconnects. There's a price difference in them.
Yeah,
So I know you're only ordering 112 this time, but I think next time, if we have a price on the other ones, it might give us a better decision on, you know, what we want to what direction we want to do. Because I feel that the whole town doesn't need disconnect meters. You know, remotely.
Did you hear all of that, David?
that,
Do you
with
know,
that, with the remote disconnect meter,
yeah,
they have,
go ahead.
they have a thermal, detector in them, and we're having them, they're tripping out that either people's meters are that loose, the sockets or they show inside and as it is.
You're kind of cutting out.
Okay, there's an echo. I'm here, echo. Is this better?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
The remote disconnect ones have a thermal coupler, protect them from getting too hot. And what we're finding is we're putting these meters in stands and they're getting so hot, they're opening up so they don't get burned up.
So you want to order 112 more of them?
Well, if you don't order enough, it's hard to hear. I'm getting such a bad echo.
But I can try to call you right back and see if we get a better line if you want.
Okay.
Okay,
If it's available to come in, so.
I'll call you right back.
Sounded like these have the thermal coupler that avoids the problem he's experiencing with some others. But I can't quite, I don't know if that's what he's saying.
That's what I'm remembering him talking about before.
So the other remote reads.
Okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have the safety.
Okay, can you say again, please, about them heating up?
The remote disconnect meters have a thermal sensor in them that if they're getting hot in the sockets, they will open up to keep from burning the meter up. The other ones that Robin's talking about do not have that in them. And that's part of that AMI system we want to go to, where the city office can do all the reads and turn the off from City Hall eventually. That's why we were buying the 209s. It makes it to where if we put 202s in without the AMI system, they won't tell us that there's hot sockets. We'd have to get that system put in the town for that to work with the meters that do not have remote disconnect in them.
So you're recommended to go in this direction on all meters then?
All meters except for like where we would use them for is city meters, and that this is just for residential. It's not for businesses or anything else, just residential housing.
Okay, well, if he recommended it, he's a lineman, so.
It'd be more safe for staff and a little easier. Is that correct, David?
Yes, I have, what has it been, 5 houses that these have opened up on, and we've gone out with a laptop and turned back on and sit there and monitor, and they're getting, the meter is sensing the temperature that they're getting hot, and they're tripping back out, and the last one we did was, before it tripped out, it got up to 126 degrees before, and then it wants to trip, it wants to open up because it's getting too hot. You can't even touch that at 126 degrees. There's a bad connection there. So I'm trying to get the people that own the house to put in a new meter can. And that's one of the deals. I don't know if the city wants to help pay for some of that.
I know we furnished a meter can, but I don't think we need
Yes.
to go
That's
in.
my thought. That's my thought too. You know, I had to, so I can't afford to have that done, but it's a safety issue. There's a fire risk. It's a fire risk.
Well, we, as Brad might correct me, but if there's a safety issue, we don't have to give them, until they get it fixed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Historically, we've supplied the meter cans.
Always
They've-
have.
But they've always had
Yeah,
other
the original one we supplied that.
What's that?
You want to say that again?
We were just talking about, David, the fact that we, originally on these, we supply the meter can, but that's as far as we typically go.
Because you want the meter can fitter meters, so they
Right.
just give it to them.
Yeah.
That's all I had, David. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we purchase 112 Sensus Stratus iConA 25 remote disconnect meters for $16,016.
Second it.
Any discussion? Kathy?
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbana?
Thank you, David. We appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Item 13, discuss and reappointment of one member to the CBB, term to expire April 30th, 2022. The applicant is Alicia Stinnett. She's a reappointment. I would move to reappoint Alicia Stinnett to the CBB, term to expire April 30th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? Nothing?
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbana?
Aye. Item 14, discuss and reappointment of one member to the CBB, term to expire April 30th, 2022. Applicant is Catherine Stinnett. I would move to reappoint Catherine Stinnett to the CBB, term to expire April 30th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion?
Are they family members?
Yep,
There's-
mother and daughter.
Aye.
Kathy?
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbana?
Aye. Item 15, discuss an appointment of one member to the KMEA Board of Directors. Director 2, term to expire April 30th of 2022. It's recommended Mitch Gerke be appointed.
I make a motion, we appoint Mitch Gerke to the KMEA Board of Directors, term to expire 4/30/22.
Second it.
Any discussion? Kathy?
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbana?
Aye. Item 16, discuss an appointment of one member to the KMEA Board of Directors, the alternate, term to expire April 30th, 2022. And this is the one that was previously held by David Jones.
Correct.
Is there a recommendation for,
Jason didn't really have one at this point.
okay,
When I talked to him, I don't know if we wanted to go with a future city manager or one of
City commissioners?
city commissioners, correct. It's recommended that somebody that's appointed to the alternate, does have a knowledge of the election.
Well, that would not be me, so. Is there someone that would like to do that?
It's unlikely that, Jason said it's unlikely you'll have to do anything. It's just to make sure David gets sick and you have to go to one of the 2 meetings of the year.
There you go.
Curtis.
Yeah, we have a volunteer.
To the man.
I will move. I will make a motion, yes, I'll make a motion to appoint Curtis Hartman as the alternate to the KMEA Board of Directors.
I'll second it.
There's no discussion and we'll vote.
Very good. Thank you, Curtis.
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garrett?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman? Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbani?
Thank you very much, Curtis. Okay, item number 17 is discussion of hospital focus group. On April 23rd, Isabel Schmidt sent an email to each individual commissioner. And it says, after my board meeting the other night, I received a question and wish to apologize that I may have misunderstood a conversation with the mayor in which I was sharing how I felt so positive about the relationship that administration and the hospital feels we have with the commission, and how I feel excited that our architect supported us, including a couple of commissioners on this focus group, to look into a future new hospital together, that I may have spoken prematurely at our meeting about the specifics. I suggested Robin Bell because I've heard from so many that he has a long history on the commission and with the hospital, and the mayor because of her positivity toward the future and growth of this community. It wasn't intended to exclude anyone, but as with our board, any more than 2 of them gathered constitutes an open meeting. I was trying to limit the participants from both to 2. I just assumed it had been discussed and realized now, because the days run together for me, that I probably didn't allow enough time for the vetting of this. Our architect has been very clear that whomever joins us from either our board or the commission needs to be forward-thinking, supportive of the opportunity and visionary. And my hope is that in addition, it would be participants who can take information from the past, reflect on lessons learned, but not hold them as a barrier to our future. I also need the participants to be available for these meetings, preferably during the daytime when the architects are available. I understand that the city attorney may also need to chime in on the appropriateness of this request. And so I did forward this to you and asked this, that was my major concern from the very beginning conversation. Is there any question of impropriety or conflict of interest or anything of that matter?
Not that I would anticipate at this point, based on what I understand this to be for. If it's really just kind of a visionary kind of a thing, or a planning group, there's not any kind of action being taken. There's not any type of money being spent. I mean, we're not dealing with the kinds of issues that can give rise to that very quickly. This is just someone coming in, and it can be, quite frankly, one of the, governing body members in terms of community leader. So I've certainly seen that done before, unless I'm missing something as to what the purpose of it is and what it will ultimately do and accomplish. No, that's no problem.
I know this has caused some grief for some. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns?
So if you're a city commissioner or anybody in the community, you're going to get asked on many different things, and you're not obligated to do anything with the city commissioner. It's just a board that you're freely volunteering your time with.
Right.
I don't need permission to be on anything if it has nothing pertaining to the city voting decisions or anything else.
Right.
Eric?
Unless there's something else I'm missing.
I did contact Isabel after listening to the audio from that meeting, and was caught a little off guard that the way it was stated in the meeting was that it was already a done deal and it was consensus that 2 members of this body were already going to be presented. so I didn't add that. So I did contact and get a little clarification. I think that may be what has stemmed this secondary response from Schmidt. I have no problem with it. It's just the way it was presented. I took it, and several others took it. That it was a decision that was made absent of consent for any official action.
That there was no, there never could be an official.
There could be if we gave consent to at least have some.
It'd have to come to the board before you do anything.
And it was not presented that way. I clearly, based on what she has said and what I shared with you personally, it was very clearly a misunderstanding between she and I. She was excited, shared in the manner that she shared, which was unbeknownst to me at the time. So hopefully that we have some clarification here that if any commissioner is specifically asked to be on any other board or committee, it does not need to be brought to this body
No.
for approval.
Not necessarily. It depends upon the origins, the genesis of it. If it's done by an organization and they're developing, as we have, a formalized board of some kind, or even a planning group, with the intent that they provide direct recommendations to this body. But even then, you know, in other words, if you endorse it and if it's created, say, hey, we absolutely want 2 commissioners on it, okay? And we're doing it because there's a joint type of project that we're undertaking, which really is not, again, the case. We're in that unique situation all the time when you're dealing with a hospital situation. And this, quite frankly, is really more open than that as I see it from what I've read, that they're just looking, okay, what are our options? You know, what else can we do? What might you look at in the way of providing medical services in this community going forward? So yeah, I mean, anybody can be asked. You all have that ability. If you have any questions, give me a call. But generally on that kind of thing, it's no different than your church might ask you. We're looking at a building committee for putting up a new.
There could be a group that wants to renovate the pool.
Yeah, or that wants to put up another a youth center. You know, it doesn't necessarily require, if we're not currently dealing with it as an agenda item, if we're not currently dealing with it as a budgetary kind of a thing, you're all still citizens who have the right to participate.
And that was not my concern, it was the way I took it as,
Yeah.
and the way several others took that same audio. So I reached out for clarification just as much as I spoke with you, I spoke with Ms. Mann as well. So she then extended an official notice to the city body for official participation by members of the commission to sit on a hospital focus board. And I would have no problem giving consent to 1 or 2 members of this commission to sit in as an official capacity.
And you can, we can note that if we want to do it, given that's her invitation, we want to just do the belt and suspenders approach to it. If we have 2 people who are willing to participate, you can simply say, that's fine with me. We've got a request for 2 and 2 of us have said we're going to do it. And we put that in the minutes so we have something reflecting the fact that it was discussed.
I don't want to do that on every board I've been on.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I get asked.
I think it's what changes, or what I'm responding to is if she's now, for whatever reason, said, well, I'm making an official request for 2 commissioners, as opposed to 2 individuals, okay.
But she probably couldn't, without her board saying, so it's just an open, free.
Yeah.
The end, I received another communication from Ms. Schmiedeman on the 23rd of April, and it reads as such. Mr. Garris, I did not make me feel uncomfortable at all in regards to the response that I sent to her email and the telephone conversation. Thank you for responding. I am happy to come address the commission on May 5th if needed in open session with a formal request if that is needed. However, feel free to take this as my request. Also, with this COVID-19 fiasco, I haven't heard much. I haven't had time to reach out to our architect, and at this point, I may try to wait until mid-May to meet to see if the stay-at-home order is lifted. Thank you. So she's now submitted a formal offer for members of the commission to sit on a focus board that may very well likely get us a new hospital.
Is there someone here that wishes to be on their board, this committee, this plan?
I definitely would like to, and
But
But
you
can
have a
you
conflict of interest.
Hey,
If you wanna go, if you guys wanna get official, that's why it's open, that would thing.
what's the conflict of interest?
Leslie?
She's not one of the members that's born.
They didn't ask you, they didn't ask, probably they asked me, because I have, other than Brad, the most information on the hospital. I've been at every meeting for 7 years with them.
I mean, well, if we're gonna go that route, we can always go, I have 3 years till an election, and so I have them.
It's not an official group. Even she asked for it, I don't have to tell you what I'm gonna do. Because we got a city attorney sitting right there. I can be on any board I want. It's not directly due with the city of Harrington.
But she's inviting the commission.
So are you available? And I'm just
I'll
clarifying.
make availability.
So, are you interested in being on this?
Ultimately, knowing a little bit more from a conversation with Ms. Sweeney, I won't have time, we will schedule all of those meetings during the day.
Okay, are you interested in being on this group? Okay, so we have two that have been asked personally and we've said yes. And so I will let Isabel know that you're also interested and they can decide who they want on their committee.
Okay.
Will that work for you?
Then it should just be an invite to who they want.
It was originally. It was originally, but it was taken out of context. It was taken differently the way she presented it at their board meeting. And that's why we're where we are today with this conversation. But it's good clarification. The discussion is great clarification so that we know in the future that we don't have to go through, this much time and energy with all the bodies involved, that if you're invited to be on some committee, that you do not need our approval to be on that committee.
You should have just worded it different. This would never happen.
Right.
Exactly
You should have
right.
said, hey, I invited Robin and Debbie to come sit in our focus group with this.
Exactly right, yeah.
Yeah.
But we can't change what she said.
No, we can't change it.
We gotta start right
Just clarify,
here
clears it all.
and go forward.
Exactly, that's what a clarification piece, so it is what it is.
So Vance, is that how you would like me to proceed, letting Isabel know then she can move forward as their board?
To me, it sounded like she was inviting the commission, and then she picked and choose who she chose. I guess we're gonna move forward. It doesn't matter which, or whatever. Yes, I'd be interested in going,
I'll let her
but
know.
obviously we can't have 3 people there.
Correct,
And she picks you over me, that's fine.
exactly.
Yeah, it's her board. I
Correct.
mean, I'm just trying to help out because I can be there. Anyway,
Okay,
it is what it is.
alright, great learning moment, home. Oh, well, yeah, okay, I'll let her know. Anything else on the hospital focus group? Moving on. Item 18, discuss and consider sale of Logan Point lot for $1,000. Is this public information? Okay,
It's a formal offer that's been made, correct?
She made, yeah, they made.
Okay, I'm good, I'm just making sure. The Logan Point lot for $1,000 to Mike and Tanya McRae.
If I'm mistaken, it's the house as soon as you come in, and they want to build the lot to put a garage next to it.
Yes,
There's a lot to the north.
They want that quarter lot right there.
Yeah, a lot right there in the corner.
I didn't know if there was room there, okay.
Yeah, there's a full lot.
Yeah,
And
then the house-
they're actually a lot over.
Don't
They're not on the corner lot, actually.
Don't we still have covenants there though?
Yeah, well, there are 2 questions. One, including our zoning requirements. I have not looked. I didn't know what the intent was. Whether many of these, the R1, you put up a garage, but you only do so in conjunction with a residential housing unit on the same lot. Now, you combine those two, there's several ways around it or ways to look at it. So if you are entertaining this possibility, we have to do it at the very least subject to making sure that we're not proving something that they can't do.
Correct. And that, I mean, the covenants, we know that we can waive those at any point, but we also know that we need to look at all of those covenants to restructure that.
We simplified them pretty significantly when we reset it, when the city became the predominant owner of everything out there. But I don't think we completely eliminated all of that stuff, so that's still out there.
Yep, and doesn't it follow, it would still follow our regular building codes?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
There's
it'd
been
only be
R1
certain,
zoning.
it'd only be so much size of the original house.
Yep, that's right. And then even if you have the ability, you can take 2 lots and merge them with single ownership interest, you're still gonna pay double the specials because it's by the million a foot and all of that. But we need to see what they're doing to make sure that, okay, it's not gonna be a problem for you to do that. I don't know if Scott's been contacted about it at all.
yes, I think he's been working with them as well.
Okay.
So we just asked for some more details and what the.
Well, they just want to buy the property.
Well, but I know what they want to buy it for. That's my only thing. I want to be real sure we're going to be.
And I could be wrong, but I thought the first time you talked to me, you wanted to build a garage, but I could be, that's been
That's what I understand.
a couple of months ago or 3 or 4 months ago.
I'd be good if we checked that, just to be absolutely certain. I didn't realize what they were wanting to buy. I just didn't want the lot. They were making an offer. I didn't realize that.
So can we,
Can we approve the sale of the lot? Okay, wait, I have a question though. We can approve the sale of the lot. And then you can, it's having the conversation with them that whatever you build, they know they have to follow building codes and guidelines. But for the purpose of selling the lot for $1,000, since I think it was 2014 was the last documentation of a price, and the price that was listed in those minutes was $2,000. I saw discussion numerous times since that point, but never documented the price. So the difference here is the price from 2,000 to 1,000.
and I think that like some of the other residents bought a lot and a half, and so we have been splitting them up.
Yes, Ed got him about 2.5 lots.
And then Mike and Debbie, didn't they buy a lot and a half? Or 2 lots?
I'm not sure about how many.
So for the purpose of the question here, are we willing to sell that lot for $1,000?
And I presented it to them as this is part of the negotiation, so they know that you might turn it down and say, hey, you want $1,500, and then go back and say.
Any buildings out there, as long as it meets code and stuff, is a bonus. I'd like to say double check with the ordinance and stuff and make sure we do everything right, but.
So they just have to follow the covenants and the building codes and everything.
So is the price of $1,000 for that lot
That's really your
the
question.
question? Yeah.
It is for me.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion to approve this? I'll move to approve the sale of the lot at Logan Point to Mike and Tanya McCray for $1,000.
But it must meet.
That any building needs to meet building code requirements.
All current existing requirements on the lot itself,
All current, to include all current
existing requirements on the lot.
existing requirements on the lot.
Zoning and. No, that's not.
I second it.
Any discussion?
So it's going to be a house, or do we need to know, I'll say this. It can't just be a garage.
We don't know.
Or
That was my question. I now know that it sounds like, assuming that's accurate, and we haven't even confirmed that they want to go ahead and put only a garage on. I know in our zoning code have a certain requirement in terms of amount of coverage you can put on a lot based upon the square footage of the lot itself and what you've already done with your house. There's also in the restrictive covenants at one time, there was a prohibition on taking a single lot and building only a garage on it unless it was attached to or separate from, but in conjunction with a residential unit, a house. And that's why I raised that before. I don't know we need to find out from them. And Scott, I'm sure, probably is very familiar. If he isn't, he will be on that. We just need to check on that. My concern was, hey, we to sell it to you, but if you can't do what you intended to do with it, you're probably not as interested.
So since we don't know, I mean, it's hard for me to say, so yes, not knowing what their plan is, if that makes sense.
And you want to hold off and get that and come back in 2 weeks. I don't know what their time frame is. That's certainly fine. I understand the concern.
I mean, you can go ahead and prove selling it to them. If they come in and say, this is what we want to do, but covenants won't budge.
Yeah.
They can back out of it. They don't have to.
So we do have a motion and second.
And like he is, but I'm gonna say, any building out there, it's gonna go on the tax roll, it's gonna addition to the community. Looks like something's growing, it's a good thing, as long as it meets all the requirements.
Just wish I
Yeah.
That's
But they can't get a building permit till they come.
Yeah.
Scott will have to approve everything.
Everything I've been told was special.
Right, but it would be like a selling a lot. And the person says they want to build a house on it, but we have no idea what the house is gonna look like when we sell them the lot. That's the
I understand
principle
that piece of it.
that we're going on here.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Did we get a second?
I second it.
Okay,
Got a second.
okay, any other discussion? Kathy?
Commissioner Donahue,
No.
Commissioner Garris,
No.
Commissioner Hartman,
Aye.
Commissioner Bill,
Aye.
and Mayor Urbani.
Aye. Okay, item 19, discussion of pool opening. So I believe this was someone else's request, but we're kind of bound by the state and the county guidelines. And in discussion with Jason yesterday, that they would not be able to get the pool open and ready until June 1st, which is past the time allowed for, not, what, 90, I think it's 90 people.
The discussion has been had in virtually every city, so I kind of have it from memory almost at this point. There's really not a great deal that you can do until basically most everyone, if they are going to open, are looking in June 1st or 2nd. And there's the challenges. If they don't already have a ready pool, so to speak, of guards, and they have to have certifications, that's a little bit of a challenge right now. Some of them have gotten around that by just doing some individualized certification at someone has a private pool and how they're doing it. You also have a requirement. In this instance, right now, it's impossible because it's just not practical. You're still stuck with the 10-person kind of thing. Now, in phase 2, you move that to 30, maybe.
You can eliminate 30 in 2 hours.
Well, and you can also, there's kind of this exception. It reads very confusingly about, family groups and that kind of thing. You can go beyond the 30 as long as you can maintain the social distancing. And what they have you do, besides the other elements of the plan, and it's fairly detailed, I should have brought a copy of that, I'm sorry I didn't, but you measure all the square footage you have, decks and water surface, and then you divide that by 30. And basically you're coming up with, well, can we do 30? If we can, how many more could we potentially allow in there if we maintain that social distancing? Then we get into discussions each and every time about what kind of methodology are we going to have for keeping things sanitized. Everything from the bathroom areas, which are not initially open, but they would be soon in phase 2 would be, to deck chairs. Some cities will say, well, just won't put those out. If you want a chair, you bring your own. Otherwise, you're going to sit on a towel on the side, and that's your deal. And then in the phases, it changes a little bit in terms of the requirements for your guards. They're in a mask, and there are specific, I don't know where you get them, but there are masks that are specifically designed for that usage. I wouldn't want to be that guard sitting out in the sun when it's 100 degrees with that thing on my face, but I get it. That's what the safety feature is for. At some point, that phases out as well. So you got a whole bunch of steps to this that you have to kind of analyze and work through. The short form answer, though, I think is correct. Is it possible to open the pool right now with the way things are and have it be practical? Yes. I mean, in terms of your ability to do it, you just have to observe all of these requirements. And some of them are recommendations, like from the CDC. Others are, you know, fit with our state order and county order. And you have to meld all of those together as well. And then you make some determinations from there about, is it even practical for us to do?
The lifeguards, Lisa, they have all the lifeguards.
Okay.
They're mostly teachers, and she has enough staff to open any of them.
There, you check off that box. That's always, that's a big one up front, because a lot of them have these people who need recertification, and they haven't been able to do it. And then so here they sit. A lot of the pools, they still want to just even do a little bit of rehearsal with, you know, pulling dead weight out of the pool in terms of getting somebody out there and all that. Even if they have been properly certified, they like to do those little in-house kinds of things, and that's tough to do to your social distancing requirement that no longer exists. And they have a requirement in there for a manager plus. So you've got all of those things we have to check off. The other thing that I have been, I don't have complete answers, although our carrier I have talked to twice, not for Harrington, but for several others who use the same carrier. Even if it's just a recommendation from the CDC, the next question is, hey, do we have insurance coverage? And to what extent does it cover? And what happens if we have a outbreak or we have a hotspot here? Are we liable in some way? And if so, do we have coverage for that? And some of the CDC recommendations almost become requirements, because like, as long as you observe all of these following things, then you would have adequate coverage potentially. So that would be one we want to double check as well. And I say all that not to discourage it, because let's face it, in terms of kids and stuff with no school and all that, it is a
No baseball.
No.
yeah, it is a source of entertainment and a place to go and all of that. So if there's a way to do it, most all the cities have kind of started from the premise that, gosh, we ought to try. Enterprise, for example, is not.
They're doing major repair work.
Yeah, they decided to just go ahead and say, all right, we're going to call it good and rework a lot of these things we've been trying to put off for years anyway. I don't know about Chapman.
I think Chapman is. I know they were pushing really hard to get, even since they can't do a lot of the regular summer ball programs and stuff like that, they're pushing really hard to figure out a way to get things for the kids.
Something,
for definitely the pool, and then even to extend some other means of getting ball teams, you know,
Part of
alley
the-
ball teams or something together.
Part of the reason I even mentioned is there's always the potential, which is not a bad thing, that if some cities don't, but others do, you may bring some folks here that otherwise would never be here. So, and then we've also got the lake. So we have things that, the bridges we have to cross. There's no doubt about it.
And financially, the pool never
they're
makes
not
money.
gonna make
They're
money.
not a money maker. It's to benefit the kids in this community with the absence of baseball and stuff. So I'll make a motion, we open the pool as soon as allowable by the departments that govern it, you know. So
I'll second that. Any discussion?
That last time that Jason is saying he can have it open by June 1st. Is that because he has other work for the next 2 weeks? Because last time it was, I can have it open in 2 weeks.
he said roughly it could be open in 2 weeks. So there must be some other issues that we don't know about. That was a couple of weeks ago, he talking about it. But if he says he can get open by June 1st, he'll get it open.
Yeah. And that's part of that too, is to allow for, to get the water warm enough for somebody to stick their big toe in.
Do we self-evident passes, all that kind of stuff in terms of?
Yes.
That's something you'll also want to discuss perhaps the next meeting. Because what happens if that order is revised and suddenly, you know, somebody has worked out money that they dearly don't have right now, and then we can't open, or we can only open much later, or you know, what you're gonna do about it, that comes up each time too. What a lot of them have done is, well, okay, if that happens, we'll basically just honor that for the following year. That's been one solution to it. It's all just little stuff that's gonna come up, and I'm just
And then
mentioning things that have been part of this discussion everywhere.
And so with the school manager, can they make that decision?
Yeah, I think you can authorize them to do so if you like. You can set some general parameter, hey, you know, where we could refund up to a certain amount, whatever, you know, the manager can come to you with the recommendation.
Yeah.
Any other discussion relative to opening the pool? Kathy?
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbani?
Aye. Thank you. Item number 20, executive session, KSA 75-4319B1. I move the city commission recess into executive session, KSA 75-4319B1, pursuant to the non-elect personnel matters to preserve the privacy of each potential city manager candidate. The open meeting to resume in City Hall boardroom at, what do you think? How much time do you want? 30 minutes?
30 minutes.
7:25. The meeting to include the governing body, city attorney, city clerk, and Art Davis of Baker Tilly.
Second.
Kathy?
Okay. Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbani?
Okay. Update on the city manager search. So we have been through a process over the past few months where we were down to 5 final candidates. When we started the actual interview process, we received their applications and cover letters and whatnot. At that time, 1 had withdrawn. At the same time we started the process, there was 1 candidate that we felt just was not a good fit from the get-go. So that left us with 3. We scheduled virtual interviews, virtual tours. 1 candidate withdrew before coming to the in-person review with us. So then that left us with 2. In the last 2 weeks, we thought we were getting down to the final candidate, and those last 2 withdrew from the candidacy. So we're not starting from scratch. The company of Baker Tilly, you know, that they're have a contract with us that they will find us a city manager. He does have a lead on 3 very potential candidates, in his opinion, that did not apply during our first go around. So at this time, we're working on 3 new potential candidates, and the process will continue for just a few more weeks till we get all the details on those. So it wasn't the greatest news, but we just got to keep moving forward. Okay, the city manager and city commission comments. Brad, last time you mentioned something about refinancing a bond. I know it's been crazy times. Did we get a chance to look at that?
Yeah, to some degree. I'm kind of waiting on some information from bond counsel about costs so that we have some idea whether there is a potential for us to, including costs, and not extending our existing indebtedness to it. Just rolling it over and refinancing doesn't always gain you a great deal, but seeing whether that is potentially an option for us. So I need that from him, but the rates are certainly within the realm that we might want to consider it.
Okay, very good. Marcus, did you have anything from the city standpoint?
Not a whole lot, just doing the normal stuff, just a lot of working on getting the wastewater treatment, all the information, there's a lot of stuff here, so.
Okay. And I can stop in tomorrow to finalize any of that if you want.
Yes,
Signature requirements.
yeah, and trying to figure out how it all went to, the application, I think I forwarded to you, I think?
Yes.
Okay. I'm about to forward it to you.
You did.
Okay.
It went to everyone.
Okay.
I can do-
So there's that. We did get the citywide cleanup, you guys all probably know, the citywide cleanup. Leo got on that and got that going pretty fast, and so that's good.
Okay. Vance?
Nothing, I'm good.
Eric?
No, I'm good.
I do have something.
Okay, it's upside down.
Everything is really
Yeah,
good.
that's
I'm actually gonna see. I'm getting more information on sound system, better video system, training for this.
Good one. With the last packet, there was for the last meeting, there was something from Solid Rock. That's the only actual proposal I've received. I did talk with somebody that Kimberly from the chamber set up, and I came in here and took pictures of everything, even the system, and they're supposed to be working on a bid. That's the only other.
Because isn't there a place over in Manhattan that does sound systems?
Yes.
I can't think of the name of it.
They're fairly new, but they grew big quick. So if anyone else has any suggestions or recommendations, if you wouldn't mind just sending it to Marcus, then he can pursue those options.
Yeah, that's great.
That's all I had.
Wow.
But I did have something.
There's meteor showers going on this week, I know.
So Marcus, I talked to Scott today. There's a brush pile at the old lake in the meadows. It's just where they stack the trees up this winter and now people are putting couches and stuff there. So I talked to Scott and I guess it gets a Leo or you to get it burnt. And Scott said he can burn it whenever you guys tell him to or whatever you want to do with it. It's just burn brush. If you could get on that somehow. And then there's a work order in for the lake for the roads at Camps Point. And it's been in for a couple weeks. And I drove out there this weekend and Eric drove out there. It's pretty bad, the road is, so we need to check them.
You're talking the main road where there's lots of.
No, from the road in to the last shelter house on the last one.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So.
From Sage Road to.
That's like number 3.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just making sure you weren't talking about, say, the grassy area out.
No, the main road.
Okay.
You drive out there, you could definitely, there's ruts.
I know, yeah.
But you can almost go mud if you go down one side.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I know it's camping season and everybody's busy and I understand that if somehow we can get on somehow.
So unfortunately, we have to maintain them, it's actually counting, but.
Yeah. I did learn though, in that regard, if we can tie any of that into fishing, that we can get grants from the fishing game that will help us with roads.
Well, there is a fishing pier out there.
Yeah, so that might be something that we could
I think Leo
ask
talked
Leo.
about grant to like maybe pave around the boat ramps where everything washes to.
That's what I learned about that. Yeah, so we do have some opportunities. It might be just a matter of prioritizing.
Yeah, so if we could get on the lake roads somehow, I know everything's busy, but the grader or something would help out quite a bit.
Even around the old lake too. When I left from the reservoir today, the potholes are just getting bigger and bigger.
So, I mean, it's a maintenance problem and it happens every year, but it's getting camping and hopefully they'll release this stuff and people get the halfway normal.
Doesn't the township, is responsible for some of those roads around the lake, and I think, it's been delayed a little bit, the conversation, but I think Chuck Scott with the EDC was gonna try to do something with the township to get them to take care of the, whatever their part is. Yeah, so we don't have to bear the whole burden from that.
That's all I have.
Okay. I don't have anything this time either, so I think you guys are doing a great job. Thank you for all your work in the city office, and I didn't have anything last week.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'm Kathy.
Motion Bill, second Harris.
Sure.
Commissioner Donahue?
Aye.
Commissioner Garris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman? Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Mayor Urbana?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, Marcus, I'll come see you tomorrow.
Okay.
She made it in for-